Thank you for downloading this RealAgriculture podcast. Excite your crops with inputs from Excite Bio. Access nitrogen and phosphorus with Excite Bio's lineup of inoculants and ag biologicals. Since 2010, they've been helping farmers harness the power of the soil. Learn more at excitebio.ca. That's XITEBIO.ca.
Joining me now, I have Jennifer Wright. She's the Executive Director of the Canadian Agricultural Human Resource Council. Hello, Jennifer.
Hello, Lindsay. Nice to be here.
All right, so pretty large, and I'm probably underestimating this, pretty large report out this week from CAHRC called Sowing Seeds of Change, and this is the ag labor market forecast out to 2030. Wow. Okay, so large undertaking in getting this done. Let's go through some of the high-level findings of this report.
Great. Yes, thank you. This is our third time doing a full update of the agriculture workforce across Canada, and then this is our national report, but we also have provincial and commodity-specific reports coming in the weeks ahead. But it does provide us quite a large overview of what's happening across the workforce in Canada and really the impacts that these labor shortages are having on the industry. So as the report says, agriculture plays a really important role in the Canadian economy, not only from an economic point of view, but for securing food, domestic food supply for Canadians and for export as well. And it's about a $38.8 billion economic industry for Canada. But with the labor shortage, what we're seeing, we've known, agriculture's had a labor shortage that has been growing over the last decades. And we're seeing that just continue to grow, where we're estimating it's impacting our sales by about $3.5 billion. And that is an increase from $3 billion that was reported in our last report in 2018.
Those are big numbers. I mean, that's a huge chunk of change. So where do these losses sort of stem from? Are these opportunities not met? Is this work that doesn't get done? How do we quantify where these losses are actually coming from?
Yeah, it really is. I think in the past in our research, we would see that in many cases, employers in the employer survey part of the research were just reporting that they were, working longer hours and that their employees were working longer hours to try to keep up with the not having enough employees on the ground. But now I would say we're starting to see things like just not being able to keep up to that demand. Certainly that's not a sustainable way to work either. Mm-hmm. But seeing lost sales, seeing things like, deciding either to not expand or to reduce the amount of production. Anecdotally, we've heard of some farmers leaving the industry altogether because they just can't keep up to trying to meet that workforce demand that, they can't fill. So it does, I think, have a pretty strong impact on the industry overall and certainly on, the Canadian food supply.
Mm-hmm. Now, there's also in the report, and as you mentioned, there will be sort of subsequent reports on this. This is sort of the national look, and then you'll delve deeper. But there is in this report, industry-specific challenges broken down by several different industries, and they're different between some of these industries. So what are some of the discrepancies in, trying to find solutions to this issue? What do we see different between, say, a dairy sector or the grain and oilseed sector? What are some of the differences in the challenges in finding a workforce?
Yeah, so there are differences. There's certainly a lot of commonalities around, where the work is done. Although there is more urban food production than we may have had in the past, most of the food production and agriculture production is done in more rural areas. So shrinking populations in rural areas, access to affordable housing in rural areas and transportation, things like that impact kind of all the commodities. Mm-hmm. But the way that things are produced, depending on the commodity, is also very different. So grains and oilseeds, you may have fewer employees, but because you have larger equipment, combines, things like that, but you're facing challenges of, again, that rural location, some of the, ups and downs of the season, because, planting season and harvest season are extremely labor intensive, and then in between might not be as much. And then when you look at, cattle production or animal production, that is kind of a different, more steady, perhaps, work across the calendar year. So there are some differences, and but there are a lot of commonalities as well.
Mm-hmm. Now, part of this, of looking at this issue, and we sometimes we get really good at identifying a problem. It's a little more difficult to institute change to actually solve said problem. But there's several different topics in the building the future workforce section. And one of those is reaching untapped labor pools. So what are from this report, what were some of the findings of where we could be drawing workers that were not?
I think it's building awareness across populations of the opportunities that are available in agriculture. I think, certainly our organization's been doing quite a bit of work in trying to connect in with post-secondary students, for example, that might be in programs not related to agriculture. They believe not related to agriculture, where we can really, talk about the opportunities, what you could do with your environmental science degree in agriculture, what you could do with your IT degree or diploma in agriculture, and, making those connections with students that might be, more suburban, urban dwellers at this point, but making them aware of what opportunities they could have within the industry. That's, I think, a huge component of this. I think it's also, connecting in with new Canadians, and many new Canadians do bring agriculture experience from where they have, from their home country, but they may be living in, Toronto, Vancouver, Montreal. How do we connect in better with them to ensure that they're aware of the opportunities that are here in Canadian agriculture as well? So a huge amount of work to do on that front. Certainly through our National Workforce Strategic Plan, we've really brought industry together to talk about some of these initiatives and some of the things that we can do in a number of different areas to ensure that we're addressing this shortage, so that we don't, continue to have it grow, but that we're putting in solutions that can really help ensure that the industry has the workforce they need going forward.
So, and that's, I guess, maybe where we'll leave it today. And I highly recommend everyone head on over to the CAHRC website, go check out this report. It's extensive, and there's a lot of really great things in here. So we'll look at a few of them. But looking, forward, and this is, a report sort of looking out to 2030. What action items really have to happen now, or what do you hope to see the industry do with a report like this to sort of start to address some of these challenges going forward?
Well, I think the industry has been working for a number of years to, try to address some of these challenges. And again, through the Workforce Strategic Plan, we've really come together to action on some of these issues as well. But the report, it does provide a lot of data, provides some concrete numbers to what a lot of producers are feeling day to day when, they know that they have a labor shortage. They're not alone. But I think the data provides some strong evidence in what we as an industry can do, but also support from other stakeholders in government on policy to ensure that things are moving forward in the right direction, and that we're able to attract and retain the workforce that we need for the Canadian agriculture industry.
All right, Jennifer Wright with with CAHRC, as we call it. What is the website address that we can send people to find this report?
The website address is www.cahrc-ccrha.ca.
That's right, French and English. Very important. Okay, Jennifer, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thanks so much for having me.